Okay, we'll see. Okay, thank you and welcome to Time to be Italian, this open conversation about food, about traveling. So today I'm so happy to have Renee that we met each other through Substack a couple of weeks ago, and we discovered that we have so many things in common, by the way, but this is not why we are here. So, hello, ciao, Renee, and thank you very
Ciao.
much to be here. So, sorry, everyone, we had some technical issues, but everything seems to be solved now. So, the topic of today is not about food, but maybe we'll talk also about food.
Sure.
It's not only about Italy, but it's about slow travel, slow traveling. So, and I'm so glad that we are talking about this because something that it really is in my heart. And every year, every language trip I organize, every time I speak with my client, I'm more like keen and happy about embrace people in this slow travel. And the first question, Renee, is first of all, if you want to introduce yourself, what you do, and then we start maybe with what slow travel is for you, and also why you have this business, because your business is all about slow traveling.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. And thank you, Barbara, for the invite. Very happy to connect with you. Myself, I'm new to Substack, just as Barbara had mentioned, but I'm not new to kind of the travel writing
Yeah.
sphere. So I've had my travel blog, my website, which is Dream Plan Experience, since 2019. And it was really just kind of my hobby at the time. I was, working still full time in corporate. And
Mhm.
I decided to retire early, and it's been my full time focus and my full time business now since 2023. So going
Wow.
on 3 years. And really, with that, it is talking about slow travel in Europe. I returned to the same 5 countries and have been doing that for the last 35 years. So for me to get to know them really well and explore them deeply, and those being Italy, France, Germany, Portugal, and Spain. So those are the 5 countries that I tend to focus on. And along with my travel writing, I also have hosted a slow travel retreat in Tuscany. I have I provide consultation and plan for people's trips, not as a travel agent, but more as an individualized travel planning advisor who I share, the places that I've been to, the experiences that I've had, and I catered around to that individual. So I make your trip to be very suitable to your interests and what you like to do, not necessarily what I like to do. And hopefully they embrace that slow travel mindset. These are people who are wanting to have a more meaningful experience when they go to Europe, because it's easy to with AI to plan a trip now, unfortunately,
Yeah.
but you get sometimes some incorrect information, or you get information that is readily available to everybody. And so for those who want a different type of trip, one that speaks to them personally, that's the kind of experience that I'm hoping to plan for everybody.
And because you talk about the AI, I thought, yes, but slow traveling is also connections, right?
Hmm.
Even with people that are helping you to organize your slow travel. So I think that's something that, I use myself a lot for a lot of things and helps you to, with timing especially. But yeah, what do you think? I mean, slow travel can also be connection, and which kind of connection you can have when you decide to have this style of traveling.
Yeah, and for me, I think that I've always been a slow traveler. I first went to Europe when I was 17, so I've now been traveling to Europe for over 35 years. And I've always embraced kind of that slow travel mindset, and it hasn't been since, maybe within the last decade that you hear this term slow travel, and it's now very trending, that I
It
think,
is.
oh, that's how I've been traveling for all of these years. So it's just it's interesting to see that it's actually been to me a term that's now been kind of more embraced. But I do think that the slow travel, some people view it as the length of time that you're in a place,
Mm,
or your pace, that you are going slowly.
yeah.
And I think that that's true for sure. There's an element to that, but I also think it's a much broader term, which really is, it's about how you approach it, right? So it's your mindset about how you approach your day,
Yeah.
because I think that you can slow travel in a place in a day or in a weekend. You don't necessarily have to be in a place for 3 weeks, because it's more
Yeah.
about how you plan your time and how you approach that. And Barbara, you really do talk about connection, and that to me is how you, when you have that connection with a place,
Exactly. The connection with the place
it's
also. Yeah.
sure it could be a person that you've met, but it's then, to me, it's the connection that kind of tugs on your heartstring. It's a place
Yeah.
that you then think of, and you kind of have a smile on your face because you remember it really well. It might be, a moment that you took the time and you enjoyed that meal, and you'll
Mm,
remember, your waiter having that interaction with you, or you'll remember how the food tasted.
mm,
You'll remember maybe what you were looking at in terms of, sitting there on a piazza if you're there in Italy. That to me is that kind of connection, is that it's about being in a place that you intentionally want to explore and discover, but it's
mm,
taking the time to be present. And
mm.
then that when you do that, when you have those kind of slower moments, then that's where I think you remember more.
Yeah, that's fantastic because for me it's different. I learned to do slow traveling when I started to promote and to speak about Le Marche, because I wasn't one of these that wants to go everywhere, but I had the kind of anxiety that when I go to a place, I don't want to miss that museum, that gallery, that house, the restaurant, the bars, and that, and then you maybe don't have much time. So here we go with a mindset you like because every time I was facing a trip was like the last trip of my life, so I needed to do it. So that's something interesting, and I would like to ask you, for you, what is a typical day of a slow travel? Like
Wherever
what's
I
your
am.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think for me, a typical one. So it always starts, to me, I'm an early riser, so I'll start early and I'll have my camera, and it's really going out to see the city, whether it be, uh, Rome, Paris, Berlin, Madrid, Lisbon. And I love going out early because you get to see the city kind of wake up. It's before everyone is, out and
Mhm.
about, and you get to be able to see the light change. You see, people going on their way, leaving their houses and going to start their day. Um, and it always, for me, kind of starts with, I've got to visit a bakery and, sit down with, um,
Yeah.
and just, have whatever the pastry is of that country. And I like to just kind of wander in the morning. And to me, a highlight of every day is always the lunch. I usually, that's usually my main meal, is I like the lunch hour. So I'll spend a couple of hours. It's midday.
Okay.
The slower the better, over a couple of glasses of wine. That's usually when I talk to, my server, and I'll say, if you had a day off, what are you doing for the afternoon? So I can kind of like understand, where are they going? What's the neighborhood that they might want to go in? Where are they living in part of the city that I haven't maybe gone to? And then the afternoon, it's usually either, a museum or a park, or it's one major thing that I want to kind of see that day. So I kind of anchor my day
Yeah.
and think, what's the one thing that I'd love to be able to see or do? Then I do that kind of in the afternoon. Um, And then I like to take a little bit of a break. So I like to go back to my apartment and, freshen up, have, an hour of downtime, and then I kind of like to go back out. So
Oh
um
yes. What
aperitivo time, or, whatever.
something that I hate when traveling, this kind of all day full and filled with things, and then you
Yeah.
arrive at dinner time that you are destroyed and tired, which is also a nice tiredness, but
Yeah,
too
yeah.
much. And then another things about connections and how it can be a slow day. For me, is also pay attention to things around you, like especially in Italy, also in Le Marche, in this small village. Look up, you can see a lot of little details, maybe the cat on the window, or nice architecture, or the sky. And also, if you pay attention, when you go to the museum or the art gallery or some historic, you can understand better the connection, because there are always connection between the people who live that place, the shops, the building, the architecture, the art, and uh, and so on. And that's something that for me is slow traveling, like be slow only, also in these kind of things, try to understand what is going on around you, because if you rush, that's
Yeah.
not, and you go with your GPS in your mobile, you will not see anything around. So
Yeah, yeah. I think that when you have just a couple of things there, when you that to kind of touch on, especially when you're in Europe, those places, like even the churches. To me, churches are the first museum historically, because you have like the
okay.
best pieces of art usually in churches, and so it's just kind of popping in, because like, sure, the Duomo, like any of the big cathedrals
Yeah,
in any major city are wonderful, but it's also the tiny little churches that you can see that don't really look like anything from the outside, but when you walk in, you're just like, oh my gosh, in terms of, looking up, you can look up and you see like the ceilings and the details and the architecture of the stone, and all of those little things they tell you how that town or how that village or how that city came to be, right? That was that one place where everybody started from. So usually you can understand the city of how it shaped from what the inside of that kind of church looks like. And when you approach your day as, a fast traveler, you you have no room for those kind of spontaneous moments, right? Because you were really focused on the next thing. You're not focused on what am I
agree.
doing right now in that present time. So it's, if you're going from site to site to site, your mind is already, when you're in that place trying to enjoy it, or what you should be doing to enjoy it, you're already thinking about, oh, what time is it? We've got to go to this part of the city, and you know we've got to be at this museum at 2 o'clock. And so you're already thinking about that kind of next thing, and you're
Exactly.
not
Yeah.
standing in present moment and thinking about what am I actually doing right now.
Mm, mm, mm. Yeah, yeah, I agree. I agree. And I think it's also a message to send, because some people are really very focused on what we do, not like leave the place. And
Hmm.
I'm thinking, but I think also who organize trips, obviously not you and I, but
Yeah.
they tend to fill these programs. And because you think, oh, a break here, a break there. No, you need more in the program, because you are selling something. So because you're selling, people are paying, so they need more. But that's not true, because I found it myself. It's fantastic. There is a place near where I live, which is called Serra Petrona, which is a small village. And the particularity, what is the characteristic of this place? It's a very nice village, almost in the mountain, but they produce this kind of wine, which is called Vernaccia, nothing to do with the Vernaccia from Tuscany. And what I love bringing my students there, because there is a small shop, not even going to a restaurant, but sitting in the square in this small shop is alimentari, what we call, and they prepare for you a sandwich with a glass of vernaccia. And you sit there and you think like, wow, this is amazing. There is also a big fountain where you can get fresh water from the mountain. So I think this is what sometimes it's having this kind of slow travel, having the possibility of having this kind of experience when you can breathe and feel the life around you, the history and what's going on. And yeah, that I think is something that I am learning, because I wasn't like this, honestly, Renee. So for me, it's a process, because it's not easy to understand this kind of slow travel and absorbing and so on.
Yeah, I think that the reason why I think that there's a few reasons, but I think with some of the reasons why this is now kind of on trend that people are talking about it is there's almost a reaction negatively to what's happened. So a
Yeah,
couple of things is that we had the pandemic, and as soon as the pandemic was over, we were all of, oh my gosh, we can travel again, and so let's have those trips that we always want to have, and we're trying to see as much as we can do. Um, or in the little time that we have. And the other thing is that, social media and this fear of missing out. So there's so much information out there of, the best restaurants you need to go to, the wine
or
windows that you need to go to in Florence, and, all of those things that
five things that you have to do if you
that you
go.
have to do, otherwise your trip is ruined. So you feel this sense of, oh, I need to go there. And then people that or your colleagues are saying, oh, I just came back from here, you have to go to this place because I really enjoyed it. So I feel like there's this building of, I'll just add this, and I'll just add this, and I'll just add this, and then when you look at your day, it's fully packed. um, and I think now that people are realizing that they're going on these trips that are really overloaded, they're seeing some great things, but they're coming back and they're feeling exhausted. And they don't have that connection. Like it goes
How
back
many
to
times did you hear
yeah,
people saying, I need another week off now to
yes,
recover the holiday?
yes, yes. And so when people go on vacation and you don't build in that the rest of, or that, kind of downtime, like locals have in their days, then you're kind of you're missing out on that. So that's why I feel people are starting to, they've had those trips, those fast-paced trips, and
Yeah,
they've had the reaction when they come home. Everything kind of blurs together. They can't remember that village from that village, that town from that village. Like nothing stands out to them, and
true.
they're missing that meaning. And so now people are kind of embracing that slow travel. And I also think it's kind of a little bit of a generational thing.
Mm,
There's, you know, baby boomers are now retired. Baby boomers are older. They do want a slower pace. But then you have the younger generation who are really embracing this kind of slow living. I live my life with intention and with purpose. And, and they take that kind of
yeah,
philosophy and they now apply it to the way they travel. So it's really interesting to see these multi generations come at slow travel at the same way, is that they're looking for something meaningful. They're having a meaningful experience. They
yeah.
want that kind of connection with the places that they're seeing.
Mhm.
And that's where I think kind of that trend for slow travel is starting to become more popular, because people are starting to see the benefits of it. You often hear someone say, what was your highlight? My highlight was the last day because I didn't do anything. And so
Yeah,
people realize, when they don't do anything, they have nothing planned, but they
yeah,
just kind of wandered around the city and found a place to sit in for a couple of hours and enjoy a meal. And just as you had said, you take your students and you just have the small little sandwich and the glass of wine. You sit in the piazza and you're watching people just go back and forth throughout their day. There isn't really anything to it, but what you're doing is you're in that moment. And
exactly.
that's
That's
when you
where,
remember that moment. It becomes so
exactly.
special, even though it was really nothing. Like on paper, it doesn't look like anything, but you
Mm,
remember those moments.
yes, yeah. I remember one time we had with my students this um, workshop with, how do I forgot the word in English, when you create this Creta, argilla, I forgot the word in English. Someone is here, help me. And you create this base and everything.
Oh,
And
pottery or
yes,
something,
with the
clay or something.
partner.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we went there in this small village, and these artists would just focus with them. The small village was actually smaller. When talking about small village, I'm talking about like in total 20 people living there and
Mm,
things like that. And then it was so lovely. And then they create this, and they were so happy because I think they were first of all they were speaking Italian because Italian was their their goal in this trip, but also because we're the four of us, five actually, with the artists, and they were just with. I didn't give any time, just do it, and they were touching these things with their hands and everything.
mm,
All this environment, which is something that you can do anywhere, everywhere, of course. But the fact that you have this kind of environment after, a short walk in the countryside, everything's low. Before then we had a breakfast in a bar with the typical, brioche and
yeah.
coffee, espresso. So also these little things, even if you travel from, and then we went to see this cave. They're very popular. They're called Grotte di Frasassi. So we did two things, quite intense if you think, but we did one in the morning and one in the afternoon. And then we're like 3 hours and 2 hours with a break for lunch. And then they had a break after that for their evening and so on. And they were so happy because we're connection also, because they touched something that was like these pottery things, this material,
Yeah.
and then they went underneath and they were like inside a cave with the nature.
Mm,
They were so happy because we're just a connection. Someone, while I was creating this program, told me, oh, but this is not enough, put something else, you know
mm,
and this was already a lot.
yeah.
Renee.
Yeah.
But this is the idea,
I think, yeah, and that kind of goes to, wanting to feel productive. We always want to feel productive in what our day to day, and when you travel, you you want to take a break from that. When you take a break from that and you slow down, and the best holidays that you go on is that you come back and you really do feel rejuvenated. You feel inspired. Maybe it's from something that you saw or something that you had or something that's what travel is really meant to kind of do, is to change the way that you think about something or that you approach something. um, and if you have that kind of experience, that's kind of where the transformation happens. So for the students and the experience that you just described, it's not something that they would have normally in everyday life. It's using all your senses, right? You've got all your tactile,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah,
and
exactly. The use of the senses. That was very
yeah,
important because of things
yeah,
that we don't do anymore, daily and not even monthly, probably sometimes.
yeah. And how do you feel? So you're from that area in Italy, in Marche, and so how do you feel about um, talking to people or advising people when they say, should I really go to this place that's really under the radar that I don't know anything about, versus should I go to the places that I know and everybody says I should go to? Like for a first time, maybe trip to Italy. Should I go to Tuscany or should I go to Marche?
Okay, a lot of people, they don't want to come to Le Marche when it's their first trip. And
Yeah.
I completely understand that. But as a first trip in Italy, you can also go in places like bigger places of Le Marche. Depends what you want, Renee. Because if you
Mm,
want really to know Italy, you can start also from Le Marche. Why
mhm.
not? Because I'm telling you, Le Marche region is something amazing because I'm not the only one saying this. A famous journalist, Piovene, told this. Inside, you have lakes, the sea, the mountain, the hills, and you have the small towns. So you have like um, everything that you can find in Italy, it's in Le Marche. Someone is going to say,
Yeah.
"Oh, you're crazy," but actually, it is because you can go from the mountain to the sea, and between these two, you're going to see a lot. Of course, there are a lot of small villages, so it depends what you are going. But if you already visited Italy, like the big cities, the famous cities, like the Grand Tour cities,
Yeah.
then absolutely you have to come to Le Marche, because especially inland, the coast is very nice. I love that. By inland is where you are going really to feel this region, the people, the history, and Italy. You can really be a big connection, and for now, really having that experience of slow travel, honestly, yes. And I lived in the UK for 10 years. I came back because I was missing Le Marche, the region that absolutely I wanted to live and forget about. So my love for Le Marche came after, with my, when I became more mature, and I used to came back from the UK to Le Marche and to visit my friends, my family. And I was like, oh my gosh, this region is amazing. It's so beautiful, because I started to look with the eyes of someone that was living abroad, like a tourist. So that was
Yeah.
nice.
And
But
I
the
love,
best,
yeah, I love what you said about that it's a country within a region.
it
Because
is.
when you plan a trip, like when I plan a trip for clients, it's really important to, I want to hear where they want to go, but it's also why they want to go, right? Like, so let's take the places away from that and kind of strip down and say, well, what is it that you're hoping to feel on this trip? And when you start to plan a trip for them, that has diversity, just what you had talked about, where you can go to the sea for a couple of days and then you can go
You can
to the
actually.
mountains for the couple of days. And then it's probably got a regional cuisine that is specific to that area.
Yeah,
Like that,
absolutely.
staying then for a week there, you have some variety
Absolutely.
versus going from city to city to city, you're having the same
Yeah.
experience.
And I have to mention big cities for Marche. It's not big city, but like Ascoli Piceno in the south of Marche, it's amazing. And I mean, that's something that you need to visit. Urbino, oh wow, where was born Raffaello. I mean, we're talking about, and places like Pesaro, and the main province, most important towns, and they are also very nice and not big. Anyway, before closing, because I
Yeah.
think we are almost half an hour now, why don't I would like you to share something memorable about one of your last trips, or maybe your first trips, where you really did a slow travel
Slow travel experience.
experience. Yeah, something you want to share that.
Yeah. There's so many.
Yeah,
So since we've been talking about Italy, I'll stay on Italy. And there's so many experiences in Italy, just because I think that that's where slow travel lives and breathes, right? Like that's the
yeah. Let's
culture
say that
of
we can
Italians.
really.
Yeah. I'll share kind of the experience that I had when I first went to Tuscany. And this is probably over a decade ago. And we stayed at a boutique kind of B&B. And the first day that we had arrived, we were greeted with prosecco and olives picked from their farm and all that sort of stuff, and set
Mhm.
the stage. And then we were very tired, and we said, we're just going to retire to our night. And he's like, oh, okay. He said, but we're having a Tuscan dinner tonight. There's a couple of other guests that are here, and we want to invite you. Okay, we were extremely tired, Barbara. We didn't want to go. But I have to say that that night has stuck in my memory for forever. And it was the kind of quintessential experience that you have to think about when you have Tuscany, where we're under, the arbor and the vines were all growing and the
I
lights
know.
were there, big long table, and nothing was cooked or prepared. It was just small little plates of the local cheese, the local honey, the local hams and salamis, the bread, the beans, the olives. It was all simply prepared. The olive oil, and it was bottles of wine, people we never met before, and we stayed up for hours, just connecting over the food and the people and laughing, and that to me is that's a memory I'll always have. It was just so simple. And when you put
I know.
yourself in that kind of moment and you have that kind of connection, I'm still connected to those people from
Wow.
that
Yeah.
place that I
That's
stayed at.
rare. Yeah.
And that's just a kind of such
Just
a
talking about you had what people say dolce far niente or maybe bezza dolce vita all together.
pizza. Yes, yes.
Yeah, that's nice.
It
That's
was like
nice.
movie. It was like, what you picture in the movie, you kind of had that night. And
Yeah.
yeah, and they weren't trying to do that. It just kind of, that magic just happened
Yeah,
on its
yeah,
own.
that's
But
something that you can, yeah, have, yeah,
yeah,
then around
yeah.
it. So, Renee, thank you very much. And yeah, I enjoyed, at least I enjoyed, I'm not sure about
I
others. I enjoyed this talk and thank you. Thank you very
Oh, well,
much.
thank you for having me for sure. And it's been a pleasure getting to know you over Substack.
Oh, that's
And
the same, the same.
yes, yeah.
Okay, bye, bye bye. Thank you. Bye,
Bye,
everyone.
ciao.
Ciao.